It was a Wednesday morning, but for me, it felt like a nightmare. As I checked my phone before getting out of bed, my heart stopped. The notification that popped up on my screen wasn't what I expected to see. My bank account balance was wiped out, every penny gone. I felt the blood drain from my face. Panic surged through me as I checked other accounts. Credit card? Stolen. Email? Compromised. Social media? Hacked. My entire digital existence was crumbling in front of me. I tried to think clearly, to make sense of what had just happened. My mind raced as I checked and rechecked the details. Was this a mistake? No, this was deliberate. This wasn't just a random glitch or error. This was an attack. Everything I had built was now under siege. The signs of something wrong had been subtle at first, almost unnoticeable. A few months earlier, I had received a strange email. It looked like any other account verification from a service used. It asked me to reset my password due to suspicious activity. I didn't think twice. I clicked the link, typed in my new password, and went about my day. But now, looking back, I realized that was the first of many missteps. The link wasn't from the service. I thought it was. It was a trap set by someone who had been watching me. Over the next few weeks, more suspicious emails started to trickle in, all from different sources, all with the same message. Verify your account. I ignored them. Just spam, I told myself. But then the warnings got worse. I started noticing strange logins to my bank account, transactions I didn't recognize. One day, I logged in to find an unfamiliar transfer from my savings to an unknown account. My pulse quickened. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to admit that someone was actively monitoring my every move, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. But that moment had come. I had no idea how it happened. 1 minute, everything seemed fine, and the next, my world had been turned upside down. The first thing I noticed was a flood of notifications from my bank. Suspicious activity detected on your account. A large withdrawal was made. Account locked. I tried to log in to see what was happening, but my password no longer worked. Panic set in. I called my bank, but they put me on hold. The minutes dragged on like hours. Every second felt like I was losing control of something precious. My finances, my sense of security, my identity. When I finally reached someone, the response was far from reassuring. We're investigating, the representative told me. There's nothing we can do until the investigation is complete. I felt completely powerless. I couldn't even get into my own accounts. How had they gotten in? How could I stop it? The questions were endless, but the answers were nowhere to be found. It wasn't just a financial loss that was devastating. It was everything that came with it. My life, which had been built around technology, was crumbling. All my personal information, emails, documents, passwords were now at the mercy of someone I didn't even know. They could be reading my messages, stealing my personal details, or using my identity for any number of criminal activities. The thought made me sick to my stomach. Then came the emotional toll. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus. My mind was constantly racing, trying to figure out who had done this and how I could get my life back. The anxiety was crippling. Each time I checked my email, I feared it would be a new alert, another hacked account, another breach. I was trapped in a never-ending cycle of worry. The worst part? The hacker wasn't just after money. I soon realized that they weren't just stealing my funds. They were after everything I had. They accessed my work accounts, sending out false emails, pretending to be me. My colleagues started to get suspicious. The trust one had worked so hard to build was now on the line. And the worst part? I didn't know how to stop it. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't just sit there and wait for things to get worse. I had to fight back. It wasn't going to be easy, and I didn't know how I would do it, but I had no choice. I started educating myself about cybersecurity. I researched everything I could about phishing attacks, malware, and ransomware. I learned how to secure my accounts with stronger passwords and two-factor authentication. I contacted cybersecurity experts who could help me track down the source of the attack. I wasn't going to let this hacker win. I wasn't going to let them destroy my life. But even as I began to take steps to protect myself, there was one thing that kept nagging at me. The hacker was still out there. I'd been fighting back, but had I truly stopped them? Or had they just been biding their time, waiting for me to let my guard down? I started to feel like I was living in a constant state of paranoia. Every strange email, every unexpected pop-up, every unfamiliar login was a potential sign that the hacker was still active. The anxiety I felt was overwhelming. It wasn't just a fear of losing my financial stability or my job. It was the constant feeling that someone was watching me, tracking my every move. Even when I thought I had everything under control, there were moments when I questioned myself. Was I doing enough? Was I really safe? The hacker had already shown me how vulnerable I was, and it was hard to shake the fear that they could strike again at any moment. I began to doubt everything. Could I ever truly trust my devices again? Could I ever feel secure online, knowing that someone out there had the power to tear my life apart with a single click? Just when I thought I had started to rebuild some sense of normalcy, I received a message. It wasn't an email, nor was it a notification from any of the accounts I'd been fighting to protect. No, this was something different, a message on social media, a message that didn't seem to belong to anyone I knew. It read, "You think you're safe, but you're not. I'm still here. And this is just the beginning." My blood ran cold. The hacker was still out there, and they weren't done with me yet. The message haunted me for days. It was brief, but its implications were terrifying. Despite all the steps I had taken to secure my accounts, this hacker, this unseen enemy, was still out there watching me. And that single line, "This is just the beginning," sent chills down my spine. What did they mean? What was their end game? I thought I had taken back control of my life. I'd locked down my accounts, changed all my passwords, and even sought help from a cybersecurity expert. But the reality was, I was no longer in control. I was merely playing defense. My paranoia was growing. Every notification felt like a warning, every alert a new threat. After receiving the cryptic message, I knew I needed to escalate things further. I contacted a cybersecurity firm that specialized in tracking and preventing online threats. Their job was to trace the attack back to its origin, find out who was behind it, and shut them down before it went any further. The first conversation I had with the experts felt like a lifeline. They reassured me that they had dealt with similar cases before and had a plan to uncover the hacker's identity. They began by thoroughly scanning my devices for any traces of malware, spyware, or keyloggers. They even did a deep dive into my bank accounts, emails, and social media profiles to see if there were any signs of continued access. It was during this process that they uncovered something chilling. The hacker wasn't just stealing from me. They were building a detailed profile of my life. They had access to everything: my emails, my calendar, my contacts, and even sensitive personal files. It was clear now that the attack wasn't about money alone. This hacker wanted something deeper, something much more sinister. The experts didn't have all the answers, but they assured me they were closing in on the hacker's trail. The more they dug, the clearer it became that the attacker wasn't some random opportunist. This wasn't a run-of-the-mill cybercriminal. This was someone who had studied me, understood my routines, and exploited every vulnerability. And worse, they were still watching me. Days turned into weeks, and my life became an endless cycle of recovery and anxiety. I was still checking my accounts every hour, still fearing that I would receive another message, another alert, another breach. The hacker had already shown they were capable of far more than financial theft. What if they were trying to destroy my reputation? What if they wanted to erase everything I had worked for? It was around this time that a pattern started to emerge. The hacker wasn't just targeting me randomly. They were using my own habits against me. For example, I noticed strange login attempts to my email accounts at exactly the same time each day, right when I would typically check my emails. The hackers seemed to know when I would be vulnerable, when I would be distracted. Even stranger, these attempts often came from locations I had never visited, from regions halfway across the country. I started to feel like I was being stalked, not just online, but in real life. The anxiety became unbearable. Was I being followed? Were they watching me in person? I was jumping at shadows. Every time I left the house, I checked over my shoulder, wondering if someone was behind me. And then the call started. It wasn't anything overtly threatening at first. At first, it was just hang-ups, silent calls. But then came the calls that left me breathless with fear. One evening, while I was sitting at my desk, I received a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me I should. I answered, and all I heard was heavy breathing. My heart began to race. I hung up immediately, thinking it was some kind of prank call, but the phone rang again. I answered it reluctantly. "Why are you still trying to hide?" The voice on the other end said. It was distorted, like the sound had been filtered through some kind of software. But the words were clear. "You can't escape me. I know everything about you." I froze. The blood drained from my face as I realized this wasn't just an ordinary prank. This was a hacker, or at least someone who had access to everything I had been fighting to protect. They knew my name, my routine, my habits. They even mentioned things no one else could have known. My mind raced. How? How is this possible? How far does this go? "You won't be able to stop me," the voice continued, sending shivers down my spine. "This is just the beginning." And then the line went dead. I felt like I was suffocating. This wasn't just about online theft anymore. This was personal. They knew me. They were in my head. The fear was all-consuming. What did they want from me? Why had they targeted me? The cybersecurity experts were working tirelessly, but I felt like I was being pushed further into a corner. The voice on the phone had confirmed my worst fear. The hacker wasn't just some faceless entity behind a screen. They were someone who knew me intimately, someone who was always one step ahead. My thoughts raced. Was this a random attack? Or was I being specifically targeted? The more I thought about it, the more the pieces began to fall into place. There were people in my life who had access to the information the hacker was using against me. Could someone close to me have turned on me? Could the hacker be someone I trusted? My paranoia was spiraling out of control. I started to wonder if everyone around me was a potential threat. Could my coworkers be involved? Was there a leak inside the company? Could it be a friend, someone I confided in, who had somehow given up my personal information? The uncertainty was unbearable. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the cybersecurity experts reached out with some potentially good news. They had traced the attack to a specific IP address, a location not too far from where I lived. It wasn't much, but it was something. There was finally a lead. But just as I was about to feel some semblance of relief, an unexpected message appeared on my screen. It wasn't from the hacker, nor was it from anyone I knew. It was an anonymous tip, a single sentence. "You've been looking in the wrong direction." My heart skipped a beat. What did that mean? Who was behind this? And more importantly, could I trust anyone? The fear that had haunted me for weeks intensified as the cryptic message flashed on my screen. "You've been looking in the wrong direction." It was as if the hacker knew exactly what I was thinking. Who could it be? Who was behind this? I had trusted the experts, believed in their methods, but every clue they uncovered only seemed to take me in circles. And now this message. It was a slap in the face, a reminder that I wasn't as in control as I thought. The tip made it clear. I had been looking in all the wrong places, and all the while I had missed the most important clue right under my nose. The anxiety I felt was almost unbearable. I sat in front of my laptop, mind racing, trying to piece together everything I had learned. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, something unexpected happened. My phone rang. It was the cybersecurity experts. They had traced the hacker's IP address, and the location was too close for comfort. It was someone within my own circle, someone I had trusted. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some faceless hacker from across the globe. The person behind this attack had been with me all along. Who? I asked, barely able to catch my breath. "It's someone you know," they replied, their voice grave. "We believe it's someone close to you. We've traced the attack back to a device in your inner circle." My mind whirled. Could it be a coworker? A friend? A family member? The thought of someone I knew betraying me was unbearable. But the evidence didn't lie. This person had all the access they needed to exploit my life. They knew my patterns, my habits. They had been watching me for weeks, maybe even months. Every step I took, they were a step ahead. The hackers' attempts to stay anonymous were flawless, but one slip-up, one tiny mistake had led them right to this moment. I had been looking outward, assuming this attack came from some faceless criminal, but the truth was far more chilling. The real threat had been hiding in plain sight. The more I thought about it, the more everything started to make sense. I had trusted this person. They were someone I had worked with for years, someone who had access to my personal life, someone I had confided in. They had been able to observe me without suspicion, learning my routines, my vulnerabilities. They knew exactly how to manipulate my trust. It was like a slow-moving betrayal, something I never saw coming. They had used every detail of my life against me, all the while pretending to be a friend, a colleague, someone I could trust. And all the while, they were quietly exploiting my vulnerabilities for their own gain. The experts had found enough evidence to act. They had traced the hacker's activity to a specific device in my circle, one that had accessed my accounts, downloaded my private files, and carried out the financial transactions that had destroyed my life. But there was one crucial thing left to uncover: the hacker's identity. The breakthrough came when one of the experts managed to trace the device to a specific office building, one where I worked closely with a small team. As the police swarmed in to investigate, they found the culprit right where we all least expected: my own coworker, Mark. Mark had been with the company for over 5 years, had a reputation as a trusted, reliable team member, and I had considered him a friend. But Mark was not who he appeared to be. The truth came out in a flood of shocking details. He had been hiding in plain sight, using his access to corporate systems to monitor and track the movements of his colleagues. He had used phishing emails and malware to steal personal information, manipulate accounts, and create chaos for his targets. What started as a small financial gain quickly escalated into a full-fledged attack on my entire digital life. The betrayal felt like a stab in the back. Someone who I thought had been a friend had been the one pulling the strings all along. The police arrested him in the office, and the gravity of what had happened finally set in. Mark's motive was clear: greed and a twisted sense of power. The cyber attack was his way of exacting control over his own life by tearing apart mine. He'd been using his knowledge of our company's internal systems to exploit us all, robbing me of my privacy, my security, and my peace of mind. Mark's arrest was a huge relief, but it didn't change what had already been taken from me. The damage was done. The emotional scars of feeling so betrayed would stay with me for a long time. Even now, I couldn't stop the gnawing feeling of doubt. Who could I trust in the future? How could I ever be sure that the people around me weren't secretly plotting against me? This experience had shaken me to my core. It has taught me the importance of vigilance, of not taking the safety of my online life for granted. It was a wake-up call, not just for me, but for anyone who relies on digital systems in their everyday life. In the end, Mark's arrest wasn't just about the personal vindication of getting justice. It was about realizing how vulnerable we all are in the digital age. In today's world, where we share everything online, from our financial information to our most personal thoughts, we are all potential targets for those who would exploit us for their own gain. And that's the most important lesson I want to share with you. Cybercrime is real. It can happen to anyone. No one is immune. And the best way to protect yourself is to stay informed, be proactive, and never let your guard down. Now, I want to ask you a favor. If this story resonated with you, if you found value in the lessons I've shared, please take a moment to show your support. Like this video, share with others who need to hear this message, and comment below to share your thoughts. Have you ever been a victim of a cyber attack? Or do you know someone who has? Your experiences could help others stay safe. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the ByteCrimes channel. We are here to keep you informed and empowered in a world where cybercrime is growing at an alarming rate. Your security is our priority, and together, we can make sure that no one else falls victim to the same kind of attack that nearly destroyed my life. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the more we know, the safer we are.